Where are we?
Miami Beach.
Miami Beach. Not Miami, Arizona.
Not Miami, Arizona.
Or Miami, Ohio.
Or Miami, Ecuador.
Is there a Miami, Ecuador?
Well,
What are we doing here, Bob?
on the way to Quito. All roads to Quito lead through Miami.
How long are we going to go for?
2 weeks? 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Lost track. It's a while.
What kind of bikes are we going to ride?
We got the V-Strom 1000 and the V-Strom 650.
We got the small version for me and the tall version for you.
If we get bored with that, we'll just switch them out.
There you go. Variety.
A variety.
So it's quite an endeavor going this far. How long have we been planning this?
Started in May of 2019 and here we are knocking on 2020.
7 months of planning.
7 months of planning and scripting and saving, doing odd jobs in the newspaper route.
How many miles do you think we're going to cover?
That's a good question and people have asked me that. I just really guesstimated
1,500 miles?
maybe 2,000 kilometers.
Yeah, where we're going, when we're going. Why are we going?
Why are we going?
Because Christmas sucks and we don't want to be in traffic or buying presents for people.
No, we don't want to buy presents for people we don't like anyway.
Yeah.
So
And the music, I don't want to listen to music I don't
if I
like
hear
either.
Feliz Navidad one more time, I'm going to have to tell them I took the blow off. I wonder if that camera's actually pointed at us. We might be getting a really good shot of our feet.
I looked at the screen. Yeah, we're in it.
We're in it.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. The hard part is it's probably not going to be able to hear a goddamn thing we're saying, so. Oh, cut it off now.
All right.
Alright, I'm in Ecuador, at Ecuador Freedom Bike Rentals. This is where we're starting our journey officially. I'm gonna pick up some hogs. I'm gonna go hit the dirt. Actually, not really, we're gonna ride on the street most of the time. I don't like getting dirty or muddy, you know what I mean? It's a pretty cool place, right in the center of Quito, near the Parque de Carolinas. And you got some off-road vehicles back here. There's some bicycles hanging up you can rent. Back over there, you got a whole fleet of motorcycles. There's like 100 more, I'll show them to you inside. This is a pretty cool place. They're open every day of the year. They do tours all over the place. You can do a self-guided tour, you know, just pick up a bike and go. Or they can give you a GPS that has daily routes on it. And so you just hit day one when you start off, and it takes you to the next hotel through some cool roads and stuff like that. And it makes it really easy. You can also sign up for guided tours. You can do it in Jeeps, bikes, whatever. So it's kind of something for everybody here. So it's pretty cool. I'll show you inside. This is the gear room. After you rent your bike, you can also get some stuff. So they got bags and jackets and boots. Helmets and gloves are free for your rentals, but you got to pay $5 a day if you want a jacket or some pants or something like that. You also get panniers and top boxes included with the rental. You can see some of the Jeeps out there you can rent. Jeeps and trucks, in case you're not proficient on 2 wheels, you have choices. Office is pretty nice. Let's see what else I can find. Snoop around. Oh, well, here's a whole mess of bikes. I don't do off-road stuff, so I don't know what the hell any of these are. And they've all got their own stickers on them, which doesn't help. That one's a Suzuki, apparently. I don't know. Let's see if I can find what I'm riding. There's a BMW G650. I had the G700 when I went to Chile for quite an epic ride down there. I wasn't the biggest fan of it personally, but that's just me. Let's see. My dad had the 1200 and he thought it was nice, but he's got big old long legs and there was nowhere to stretch him out because on the horizontally opposed Beamer, you got a big old motor sitting right here. Anyway, this looks like what we're renting. These are Suzuki, yeah, that's a Suzuki V-Strom. I got a 650. Bob got 1,000 because he's a foot taller than me. They all look pretty new, late model stuff. It's the old Africa Twin if you're into that. That's a good bike. Too tall for me though. I got the lowered 650, I should mention that, just because, again, I am a little bit shorter and I want to be comfortable. A lot of time, these adventure bikes just have you way up in the sky, and I can't even reach the ground. And this is kind of unnerving as a new rider, or a newish off-road rider. You know, when you have all these heavy tank bags and everything, the bike's very tall, it's wide, it's cumbersome, so for a comfort thing, just to be, I don't know, feel secure on the bike, it's nice to have something that's low, or at least fits your own height, whatever that might be. Got some lids back there, some Mo bikes. This is Sylvan, he's getting us set up right here to go. Hola. Plenty more bikes. This must be the repair shop. So if you dump it over, they can put new bars on it, send you a bill. Oh, look at that. Get some little mini scooters, in case you don't want to get too hardcore off-road. This would be a fun thing to rent, just to cruise around Quito if you come down here, or if you go into some areas that aren't too far away, you could probably have fun on this without having to get a big old giant motorcycle if you're not comfortable with it. Anyway, that's the outside of Freedom Rentals. All right, welcome to Quito. Quito, Ecuador, capital city. Right now we're taking a cruise out to the equator, which, go figure, runs through Ecuador. So far, Quito's been pretty nice. Like I said, I've only spent a couple of days here, so I haven't got a chance to explore a whole lot of it. And that's not really the reason we came. This is just the place that you gotta fly in. That's the place you gotta rent your bikes, so it's always gonna be your starting point. I think you can fly into Cuenca or Guayaquil, which is in the south of the country. But I don't know what your options are gonna be for renting bikes and stuff, if that's what you're after. This is the park to commemorate the equatorial crossing. So there's officially, or maybe unofficially, the center of the earth to my right. But there's this cool building here with infinity pools and all that going around it. So here we are, officially at the center of the earth. This is the equatorial line. It's official, it's guaranteed, we're in the right place, right?
Yep, paid $5 to get in it. It's got to be right.
Okay. So it's not the right place.
It's actually somewhere else.
So this is not the equator.
No, but it's nearby.
Well, look at this thing. They built this?
Yep.
And this whole park?
Yep.
That's not the right place.
Not quite.
How far away are we?
A couple of miles.
A couple miles, so it's not like a foot over that way.
No, it's not good. It's a couple of miles.
The sprawling center they built. It's a planetarium, fun signs, restaurants. stops at the equatorial center. They got some countries represented here if you want to buy some goods that represent that particular area. Got some signs around telling you how far it is to get back home, which is kind of funny. We came from Miami. What could be better than a stop at the unofficial equator? How about some fresh microbrews at the equator? Got a little display here telling you how they make all this stuff. Fermentation, cooling, recirculation, filtration, some other words I don't understand. Kind of cool. Got some pictures of some monks up here enjoying some brewhas, as monks do. I'm glad I stumbled into this tent. A little bottle cap press over here, some kind of scale. Make sure you get a full 12 ounces. And now we'll try the finished product. Cheers. Cheers, mate. Is it gonna swirl clockwise or counterclockwise? Pretty good. That's not bad. That's a good one. Up in the hills, there's a sport bike. Outside of Quito, it's about where the airport is. Keep going past that another 10 kilometers or so, and supposedly we'll find the actual equator. Because the one we were at is not really the equator. It's like 7 minutes of angle off or something like that. But it's kind of a tourist attraction, so I guess nobody cares. But we do. We want to see the actual equator. It is windy as all get out up here. Must be fun landing planes. Really nice road though. Got worse roads than this in the States. This thing's perfectly paved, well marked, nice and wide. Not much to complain about there. Where are we now?
We're at the equator.
The real one this time?
This is the real deal.
How long did it take us to get here?
Oh, well, we crossed the Andes about 5 times. And let's see, rose in elevation about 3,000 feet a couple of times, and then down a few thousand feet. Took us, what, 2 or 3 hours?
It's a good couple of hours riding. Way longer than I thought.
Way longer.
Yeah, this actual equator is pretty far out here. You're gonna have to take some time. I also discovered that the monument we went to is only 270 meters from the actual equator line, so this could have been a lot shorter trip. It just wouldn't have the pole in the middle of the field, that's all.
We do have a calendar.
Do have a calendar. This is a solar calendar. On the equinox, the sun will follow this line going straight across, and at noon it'll point straight down the tube and cook some popcorn at the bottom.
of winding on out of Quito. Time to get out of the big city for once and get this actual road trip going. Heading for Tena, which is in the rainforest. We got to cross over the Andes first, so we're probably going to have a bit of a climb, then a bit of a descent. But first I got to navigate my way through this bowl of spaghetti that is the roads around Quito. Down the bottom of that hill over there, that's where I'm going. About to get to a toll booth. I've been to some toll booths and you got to pay when you're a motorcycle. I've been to other toll booths and they're like, just keep going, buddy. So we'll see. I don't know how this works. Definitely don't have telepass. I'll have to ask him if I gotta pay. Paga o no paga? Gracias. There you go. No payment on this toll road. So we're looking for Avenida Simon Bolivar South. There it is. Nice. No getting lost today. Some hairy ass U-turn to the right, I think. Yep, there we go. Watch out for them potholes. Right. Got the camera game back going again. Ran out of memory card. Look at this jungly stuff, man. This is rainforest right here. Huge difference from the other side of the mountains. Really pretty though. And it's starting to get warmer again, which is nice. The road on the back side of the mountain is half the size of the one on the front side, but that's okay. There's hardly any traffic down here. And still pretty well paved. A couple of spots where the road's missing, but really not too bad. So we're almost to Bresa, our halfway point. Nice leisurely ride for a couple of hours outside of Quito, as we get some sustenance and do the other 2 hours. Pass some hot springs up here, so if you want a place to stop. There is one. Plenty of restaurants on the side of the road. Don't see any place to stay though, so I'm gonna bring your swim trunks and your towel with you. A little bit of wetness. A little bit of road gone. All right, so we're leaving the Terra Luna Lodge here in Tina. I thought it was a bit more in town, but it turns out it's through this rocky area, some unkept roads over a wild bridge. That's okay, it's not too rough, even though it's probably the most off-roading we'll do this whole time. Pretty upset at the moment because of my GoPro's performance. Hopefully it's working right now, but I was riding with it on the last couple of days, recorded about 20 videos, some nice scenery, some comments, you know, me talking some shift, only to find out when I reviewed the videos last night that 18 out of 20 have zero audio whatsoever. Just total camera failure, only pictures, no audio. Really, really annoying. I mean, I am livid. I really am. Spent hundreds of dollars on this camera and the stupid microphone thing that you got to put on it, and all the mounts and crap. Got it all set up. Planned this trip for 7 months. Spent all this damn money, only to find out that my camera isn't working for shit. And it's not like it's a problem you can solve. It's not like, oh, the microphone fell out, so it stopped recording. No, everything was fine. Everything was the same. Just for funsies, it decided it wasn't going to record any audio. Hello, puppy. So that really made me upset. I hope it's going to work now. I updated the software on the camera, cleaned everything out, did all the connections again. So, I don't know. Here's hoping. So I guess I'll have to show you some clips of the ride down to Tena from Quito with some music playing instead of me saying a bunch of stuff you probably didn't want to hear anyway. So this town Tina is pretty cool. It's on a couple of rivers that run through here, so they got some nice kind of riverside parks and observation points, a couple of cool looking bridges. We're about to go over one of those bridges right now. You know, 5 years ago I would have been real nervous riding on this dirt, off-road, potholey, rocky stuff, but after my trip to Chile, it was like hundreds of miles of roads way worse than this, so I feel like I got my experience in. A little walk in the park now. I'm glad it's not too wet and muddy. That's about the only thing that really turns me off about riding off-road, is just getting all dirty and gross. Yeah, here's a cool little bridge. It's got some pedestrian cutouts in it at the beginning and the end there, so if cars coming by you can stand right there and not get run over. Alright, so we're getting into the part of Tina now where they're tearing up all the roads and stuff. Which is about the only place I've seen so far in Ecuador that was not really well maintained roads, so that's a good thing overall, on the whole. But it's only like 2 blocks of tore up roads, so it's really not too bad. And if you're watching this, I'm sure by the time you get here, it'll be all finished. Let's see if Bobby can get us out of here. It's not too bad. It was raining all night. I was expecting this to be just a sopping wet mess of mud. That's why I got my waterproof boot covers on for the first leg. That's a big pothole. Avoid that. A little bit of tractor. Oh, watch out, buddy. Just walk right across the street without looking. You're gonna get run over. That's how that works. So we did a little shopping here yesterday. It was raining like hell, so we didn't do much riding. Went to the pharmacy and got some electrolytes, because I think we sweat out every bit of salt in our body the last couple of days in Quito. Between the room not having any air conditioning and the temperature being like 80 something with 90% humidity, just didn't have much left in us. And I feel so much better after that. So there's a pro tip. If you're feeling lethargic and slow because you've been sweating into your leathers for a few days, Grab some electrolytes from the local pharmacy. En español, es electrolitas. Es muy simple, ¿no? So this is the main bridge across town, and way down below you'll see the river there. A couple of pedestrian bridges. There's that observation post I was telling you about. Kind of cool. And then down here is a nice little park. A little place for the kids to play and all that. There's a couple of little cafes on the side as well. Hey, you can get a sense of how nice the street will be once that last section's fixed. You know, it's all really smooth, except for that. I don't know.
Looks like it.
Think so?
I don't see Puyo.
I don't see Puyo either, or Baños.
Sandia. Yeah, I think it's this way, Sandia.
All right, well, here's one of those situations where you figure you just stay on the main road and you're going to get out of town, but now the main road forks and none of the signs, or excuse me, none of the cities on the sign look familiar. Man, what the hell? Oh, he's going. Is he changing his mind? He's asking directions. Anyway, so yeah, we've done some motorcycle rides here and there, got on some vacations here and there. I always thought like smaller islands, you know, countries with less developed economies would have tons of motorcycles because it's such a reasonable mode of transportation. You know, the gas doesn't cost a lot. And motorcycles, of course, cost less than cars to buy. Yeah, let's check the map. So when we were in a place like Fiji, which is an island and not a lot of money there, there was no motorcycles at all. Nobody was riding a fucking bike. It's really strange. Then we went to, where were we? We were in Puerto Rico, and we figured the same thing. There's probably gonna be motorcycles all over the place, but there was almost none. Fiji and Puerto Rico just don't do motorcycles. All right, this road's fine. Oh, that scared me. And that was just kind of mysterious to me. You know, I thought gas is really expensive, vehicles are really expensive. Why wouldn't there be motorcycles all over the place like you get, you know, in other parts of the world? Here in Ecuador, my expectations were met. There's bikes all over the place, and they're all really tiny because they're all really expensive. Most of the bikes are like a 150 or a 200 cc, and that kind of bike's gonna set you back like $7,000 or $8,000, which is pretty outrageous. We were looking on some of the manufacturer websites just to get an idea of what bikes cost around here because of the import duties that are often levied in South American countries. And if you wanted this bike right here, actually, yeah, this Suzuki, whatever, V-Strom 650, you'd probably be paying like $25,000, which is twice what it would cost in the US, and that's just MSRP. So, you know, in the States you could probably get a little bit less than that. I don't know what kind of negotiations they do here. What was I saying? Oh yeah, bike prices. And then, so, you know, on the Suzuki website, they had like a GSXR 750 that was, again, double the price you'd pay in the States, or I guess anywhere else, like Europe or Japan. That was a lot. So even the real modest bikes, you know, the 200s and 150s or whatever, I mean, they're almost $10,000. So you can see why it would be much more appealing to buy a inexpensive Chinese 200cc motorcycle than, say, a Chevrolet Corsa 1.8 Evolution, which apparently that is. Good gravy. We looked at some BMWs as well. You know, the big touring bike, the GS 1200. We didn't find any new ones. I don't know if BMW Motorrad has a presence in Ecuador or not. But one of those used with like 3,000 kilometers on it, 2018 model, was $38,000. $38,000 for a motorcycle. That's a ton of money. Goodness knows what it would cost if you wanted to buy one new. So, you know, we also had the thought a lot of times in Chile as well, when we went down there, like, hey, why don't we just buy a motorcycle if it's going to be cheap, and then we'll sell it before we leave town if we can and get some of our money back, instead of spending $2,000–3,000 renting a motorcycle like this. Well, that's all sounds really good until you get here and realize that the motorcycles are twice as much as they are in America. So you ain't getting a South American deal on a bike. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about what it costs to ride motorcycles around here. And hopefully you heard it. Because this camera doesn't work. So the forecast said we shouldn't see any rain. At least not this morning. So I'm happy about that. We got hit with some pretty good rain yesterday while we were riding through the Amazon. Just out of nowhere, just downpour. Of course there was no audio, so I guess I'll show you the clip, but there was a little bus stop we found just by an absolute miracle. Right after it started raining, there was this little piece of shelter there on the road. So we were able to dive in there real quick and put on our rain gear, which was nice. Because if you ever get caught out in the rain without your gear on, trust me, you're gonna be wet by the time you can get it onto your body. A lot of adventure riders use gear that's kind of waterproof anyway, or has a waterproof liner that you can zip in and out. I don't know if that would be all that more convenient than having a separate set of rain gear. Because if you have to stop and take your jacket off and zip in your waterproof liner on the side of the road, and then do the same with your pants before you take off again, I mean, you're gonna have to take off your pants on the side of the road. You're gonna be wet. It's not gonna work. So the other option is just riding with your rain stuff already zipped into all that clothing, and then you're gonna be really, really hot and uncomfortable, and it will not be a fun ride. So I looked into some of that stuff before I left, but I eventually decided on just going with the exterior coverall Tourmaster Defender 2.0 rain jacket and pant, 2-piece. Because I figured in a pinch it'd be a lot easier to throw that on rather than taking all of your clothes off. And it kind of worked. I like the Tourmaster gear. The holes on the bottom were big enough to get my boots with the waterproof boot covers on, you know, through the pants. And so it was pretty easy to get on. It folds up pretty compactly. Stuff it in the top box there. And I stayed pretty dry. I was really hot. If you don't know this, when you put rain gear on, it's like wearing a trash bag. Like, no air is going to come out, so you're going to be absolutely roasting inside. That's not so bad if it's freezing cold outside, but if you're in the Amazon and it's 80 degrees and downpouring, then it's really uncomfortable. Still getting used to having to use a clutch. So spoiled from the Aprilia, where you just bang it down a gear and it does the work for you. That's all right. This is good practice. Speed bump. They got some pretty vicious speed bumps in Ecuador. I bottomed this thing out on one of them. It's a good thing it has a skid plate, or I would have left my oil filter back by the equator. Oh, pretty wide river there. These little roadside stands here where you can get food. There's a lot of them like that. They'll just have like a barbecue or a grill going with some meat on it. It just kind of sits out there all day, so, you know, eat at your own risk. I did try one when we were coming back from the equator because I was super hungry, because I didn't think that ride would be 5 hours out to the equator and back. They just had some grilled chicken just kind of sitting on the grill there, and some corn. I was like, whatever, I'll eat it. So we went down and sat inside, and it's actually a really good piece of chicken. One of the best meals I've had here. And there was some chicken, some potatoes, some corn. They brought us out some salsa, a couple of beverages, and it was $4 for the whole thing. So you can eat on the cheap on those roadside stands. Just make sure you have the kind of gut that can put up with that kind of thing, just in case. Our tour guides, the people that rented us the bikes, were nice enough to provide us with some stomach sickness pills, just in case we get into something that we can't quite get out of. So hopefully we'll avoid that. Unlike places in rural Mexico or Chile where I went, there doesn't seem to be the sort of stamp of government approval on every eatery. You know, like we have the, you know, health rating in the window in America. You get an A if you're good, you get a C if you suck. And even in Mexico where I went, it'd be like some little shack out on the beach somewhere, but it would still have the certification from the government saying that their standards are all up to snuff and that it's safe to eat here. So that was pretty cool. And same thing in Chile, out in the middle of nowhere in Patagonia. You know, they had all the stuff regulated. So that was puts your mind at ease. But in Ecuador, not so much. Not that they don't have health inspections, I just don't see it as obviously bragged about. So we're gonna hit some monstrous twisties on the way down to Baños today. And then on to Riobamba. We're gonna go by an enormous volcano, which recently detonated itself, washed out some of the roads and things. I think they've got them all rebuilt by now. My main concern after that one in New Zealand went off a couple of weeks ago is that it doesn't happen again, because I don't want to be covered in hot ash and molten lava or poisonous gas or whatever comes out of these things. Either way, it should look pretty cool, and we should get some real fun roads to go twisting down. So hopefully they stay dry and I stay dry. Yesterday, when I was recording any audio, we had some pretty serious mountain roads, and it was all wet and rainy all over the place. There was some places they were doing construction, or the road was washed out a bit, and so there was a lot of you know, dirt areas and mud areas that we had to navigate through, which again is not the end of the world. But when you're used to riding on the street in a grid pattern like Phoenix, any sort of thing that's a little bit different from the way you ride can feel intimidating at first. Hey, cool, look at all those smoky valleys over there. Alright, well, let's sign off for now, and hopefully when I pick it back up, the audio will be working.